Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Monday, November 29th. So, pretty big rebound day for some areas of the market, not for all areas of the market, but definitely some things as the cues. We'll talk about the semis as well. We'll talk about a couple other areas in this video. But risk disclaimer: first things first. Everything that we're going through here is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. And if the screen is a little bit blurry, just give it a little bit more time for the YouTube high definition version of the video to render. So let's get right into the price action. I apologize, no video, no public video on Friday. After what happened on Friday, I strictly just had a member video. It's just kind of the difference between what I put out publicly versus what I put out for members. There's just a lot more detail, a lot more information. Videos that I put out over the weekend, they're really in depth about kind of what I'm thinking and in terms of setups. So, if you're interested in that and seeing, more information and more setups and, more about risk management, please go ahead and, you can go to our website, tribecatradegroup.com, or you can go right to my Twitter page and the link to get involved in our trading room and basically what we do on a day-to-day basis is right on my Twitter feed. All right, so enough about that, and I will share what our picks were and how I kind of came up with the weekend watch list. But so let's start with the theme of the day. Big day for the Qs. Interesting if you look at overall market breadth, which is definitely something that I look at during the day. When we look at the advancers versus decliners, you had for the Dow, 18 up, 12 down, S&P 337 up, 165 down. And for the Nasdaq, look at how many more decliners there were in the Nasdaq today. So, you think big bounce today when you look at what the Qs did today, but when you look under the hood, it wasn't that great, very strong participation. Some areas of the market are red hot, and they continue to be red hot, and they showed relative strength last week, right? And those kind of remain kind of go-to areas of the market. We detailed this weekend, and here's what I provide members in our second video that we send out. But we talk about where there's relative strength in this market, which is a big thing, right? We want to keep our eyes on what's strong and what remains strong, and then as a process of elimination, some of those things that were strengthening or getting better, if they start to weaken, then I'm not going to participate in those areas of the market, right? I only want to own the best, right? We only have so many resources. One of the things that I mentioned in the weekend videos is always putting the best players on the field, right? I tend to look at things sometimes from a sports point of view, and I don't want to put some players on the field that are the rookies or the unknowns, right? The stars are going to remain on the field, right? And I think that gets lost sometimes when people are looking for trades and looking for setups. I still see on Twitter too many people looking at downtrends and trying to spot, when a name is going to turn around. And also there's also little follow through from that, and we talk about that all the time, that names and downtrends can definitely bounce, but I think people aren't in those trades or looking for those setups just for bounces. They're looking for turnarounds, and it's very hard. And I think when this market is doing what it's doing, where you just on a day-to-day basis right now, you've got a breakdown in breadth, and even on a day like this, you are just not seeing that much participation, which to me troubles me. Is troubling, right? So let's talk about first what's good in the market, as I'm kind of going back and forth with the positives and the negatives, because there's both right now. But what continues to be strong is what we talked about this weekend. We highlighted things that some of which just barely broke the 20-day moving average, and then came back. So the strongest of the strong right now, and not a shocker, but a lot of people talking about the strength today, is in the semis. They were up 4.4 4% for the day, right? And SOX is a little bit more diverse ETF, right? You've got more components in this ETF versus the SMH, but very strong. And if you break it down, if you start to look at the names, and this is why we had two of these names on our watch list today, but Nvidia and AMD, and you look at these two charts and you're like, if you were just to kind of look at a handful of these semis charts, you would be like, wow, this market is super strong. Even last week, you look at Friday's candle, right? Did not look like the rest of the market, right? So again, we call that relative strength. Yes, these things are a bit stretched to the upside, but there's no sell signal in some of these names. A couple other names really caught my eye today, which I don't have anything on in Lamb Research, but very, very strong. I decided to trade some Cadence, CDNS, right? This is both a software and a semiconductor play, right? They do a lot of their technology in this space, but I just started to see this group move, and I started to look for setups, and just kind of caught this noticed the strength early on in the semiconductor space, and said, hey, well, let me go through some charts really quick, and some names had already moved decently. Because that's just how this market moves. This market is not waiting for anybody to get involved in the strong names. So Cadence was an interesting name. Somebody mentioned to me Applied Materials, bouncing a little bit. Remember, Applied Materials really moved down on earnings, and Taiwan Semi is one name too. So I'm not opposed. Even though I stick to the relative strength names. This name is interesting. This Virgin Point of Control takeout, right, where a lot of buyers and sellers have previously met up before but haven't revisited. That was basically the once we kind of rallied up to this point, that was the kiss of death. But now it is into the 200-day moving average, and it's a logical bounce play, right? Would I want to own this name for more than a bounce? I don't know. I would have to see how it kind of goes along, but. That's one name that we saw some option activity in. But I can go through a number of other names, but I want to keep going in this video and talk about, get back to the overall moves, and then we'll drill into some more individual setups. But yeah, so we talked about the Qs. Let me just go over the index charts, because I kind of skipped over that. I usually start with that. So this was decent, right? I mean, I thought that I thought for today that we would really not. That we were going to get rejected and not be able to kind of make it into the value area for the week. You could see we did, midday, but you could see the volume on this, right? So I'm still not convinced that this was any more than just a bounce. So I'm just kind of playing it for now. That I want to get through the last day of the month. Right, tomorrow's month end. There's going to be some rebalancing. There's an MSCI rebalance tomorrow, but I really don't like these last day of the trading month days. I've put these stats out before. Maybe I'll put this stat out again about the difference between the last trading day of the month versus the first day of the trading month. It's a pretty big difference in performance. So again, I'll update that, because I don't think I updated it for last month. So I'm always on the conservative side, given how bad these last day of the trading months are, and the performance speaks for itself. So I would like to just basically get November over with and see what we can see how the setups begin to materialize for the new month. And it's going to be a busy month. We've got a debt ceiling type issue going on. We've got this new COVID variant, and then we're going to have a new Fed meeting. Now Powell just spoke. He just spoke, and he's speaking again. 2 more days. But this is another excuse, I guess, for them not to raise interest rates, or maybe to be very gentle with the tapering. So bottom line, level that I would watch for tomorrow before we get. I don't want to go too far in the weeds for you this video, but 4652, right? We like to keep things as simple as possible with all those events and all those things going on. I like to have levels to trade against. It kind of cuts through the noise. It cuts through the news as well. So here's the one that was, I think, most interesting for the day out of the indices. in terms of positives, right, was the Nasdaq, and you have a bullish engulfing for Nasdaq futures, right? So this body of this candle engulfed the previous body of the candle. I don't look at the tails for this. I look at the body of the candle. If you look more at the Qs versus Nasdaq futures, you could also be probably pretty pleased with that too. That's way above where the open and the close was for the previous day. But I do look at Nasdaq futures because it contains more information and more trading, more volume. So that's that, right? So you look at this, you're like, hey, that's pretty good. We got back above the 5-day, the 20-day moving average. A pretty damn good day for this group of stocks. Now, for tomorrow, I would watch this top of value, right? Notice where we closed, right at this top of value, right? So this level, see if I can just zoom in here, is going to be 16,417, right? Interesting that we closed right at the top of value. Right, so that's a level to watch. So again, you got an S&P level, you got a NASDAQ level to watch, right? This way you're going to know where you're right or you're wrong. If we get rejected here and start to move down, right, you know that the market we had really one nice day, but we're still kind of, not out of the, what's the right expression? We're not out of the volatility. We're going to talk about the volatility in just a second too. Not out of the weeds, I guess is the right expression. IWM, talk about a failure for the day, right? I had a trade on in the Russell because it was just down so much, and I thought it could bounce. But look at this thing; did not even close green on the day. That to me is disgusting price action. Do I want to try to predict or go into an area that looks like this? No. Right after this kind of false move higher, and we're right back into the middle of this. I think this is best to ignore right now. Anything that's really difficult in the market. I know sometimes people like difficult puzzles, right, to try to figure out, right? I get it, right? You want sometimes the most difficult thing because it's a challenge, right? But in trading, I want to stick to the easy things. This is too difficult, right? So if you could figure this out, what the next move is, that's great, but that's not for me. And I think I want to avoid this group as much as possible. If you look at IWC, right, let the people who love to like put the 10 indicators and maybe this and this line says this, and I get it. I've got a lot of indicators on my charts too, but I don't need to be looking at 5 or 6 different studies to figure out. Price and trend are going to tell me as much as I need to know. I like to put in volume in here too. That's why I use the market webs. But the microcaps, look at this, right? This does not look good. That's a move, way below the 200-day moving average. And it just tells me that we've got a lot of issues below the surface in this market. So what are the adjustments that we talk about when we've got kind of trouble like this with the market with very low participation, bad market breadth? Well, it's holding a less amount of positions, smaller positions, and avoiding short-term risk until this improves in the market. Very simply, I talk about this analogy all the time, but let's say you have no market edge, right? And in regards to how this market breadth is right now, and more declining names than advancing, right? So if you just pick 10 names out of a hat, no edge, right? And you're dealing with bad, poor market breadth, right? Let's say you pick 10 names out of a hat to invest in. If you've got poor market breadth, odds are that you're going to lose money in 6 or 7 of those positions, and you're going to make money in 3 of those positions. Again, that's just random picking out of a hat. Now, hopefully we could do better than that, and we do better than that. But it just tells you how difficult the environment is, right? I want to be, adding risk and participating more in the market when we've got an expansion of breadth, right? And that usually comes at market turns. That happened in here, right? When we made the October low and we started to expand, right? We started to see things like when we look at the advanced decline line. Right? And we could look at this just for New York because the other one's going to paint a little bit of a different picture. But we started to see the breadth improve. Right? Now, was it huge? Right? We did make a new high in breadth for NYSE. Nasdaq was a different issue, but right. So that's where we want to be kind of where I, in particular, want to be allocating more capital. So what do we do until then? Well, we do things like we day trade a little bit more. We short-term swing trade, and we keep less positions on. That's for me how I play this game a little bit. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't want to be prepared, right? So when I put together this list, let me just, before we talk about anything else, I just wanted to round out some of the other areas of participation. Tech did very well today, up 2.5%. So again, when you split tech up, I tend to look at internet names, I tend to look at software names, and I tend to look at the semiconductors, right? So again, not all bad, right? I mean, even though that the market breadth isn't good, it's great to see the semiconductors, it's great to see the software names, and it's great to see tech, some of these growth areas of the market. Solar did pretty good today. Consumer discretionary also did well. But again, look at the list of areas that were down, that fell after the, after the bounce today as the market opened. This was the performance over the day. A lot of areas of the market were weak, right? The biotech, very alarming what's going on with biotech right now. Right? I put a chart on Twitter. Here's the daily chart. Here's the weekly chart. Breaking into value and basically breaking down right now. So I would love for this to be a false breakdown, right? But it's not. It's breaking support for the year. Okay, so that to me is troubling. All right, so. I think I talked enough about what's kind of the overall investment landscape that's going on in the market. It's a difficult space right now. I wanted to just share with you what I put out on Twitter. Right, I came into this week with no predictions. I don't. After Friday's price action, did it seem excessive? Yes, absolutely. But it could get a lot more excessive. Right. So trying to kind of make predictions when you see the VIX go up as much as it did, I wanted to just look at that chart really quickly, and then as I promised, I will go over a couple of setups. But you basically just have an inside day in the VIX, right? What is an inside day, right? It's basically no change in trend from the previous, right? Or sometimes you can have a double inside day, but even though we were down 20% in the VIX today, it's still an inside day, right? So I would need to see, I think, this VIX get back below 20. We looked at the VVIX as well. Notice that this was only down 12% for the day. So I'm not convinced by today's price action that we are out of the woods, right? Not weeds, woods. That was the expression that for whatever reason I couldn't remember before. Okay, so we could go through a couple things here. We talked about the semiconductors. I also think a couple other names looked pretty good today. Roblox had a nice day. Right, almost took out the open from the previous day. You'll find that I use in my charts the daily chart the most, as well as the 1 hour chart. That will give me the 1 hour chart will tell me whether for the week if we're in range or if we're breaking out of this week's range. Again, based on the market webs and based on the volume profile. Right, which gives you significant levels around there. So Roblox had a nice day. Lucid had a nice day today, even though I try to trade this and I kind of chickened out right in here because I was looking for specifically that 1 hour chart and moving above value. We couldn't do it on this one. We did it on the very next hour, which was 11 o'clock, and then it kind of moved higher. But I did take on a small position of this just because I kind of messed this trade up earlier. Not messed it up. I'm being very disciplined right now. All right, MTTR. You had to chase this name a little bit, which is tough to do in this market. But if you chase this thing up 8 or 9%, which is when I was kind of looking at it for the day, you got rewarded. LAC was another one too. Very, very strong. Right. So these were two of our setups from this weekend. LAC I did not put on Twitter. MTTR I did put on Twitter for this weekend. CFLT was another one that we talked about that was exhibiting relative strength last week, towards the end of last week, up another 4%. I think this still looks good. Maybe we could see a move up to this version point of control. I mentioned Cadence. Right, Cadence almost took out this 187.70 VPOC. I took a target in here. I thought just close enough. MP was another name that a lot of traders were talking about, right? Nice move up here, a little bit of digestion. Might be a play for something to watch for tomorrow if it can clear those highs. All right, other names that we talked about this weekend. TTD looked interesting to me too. Right, definitely moving in the right direction. I just didn't know if it would have enough power to do something as crazy as like a MTTR today. HUT is another one that looks interesting, right? But I got to see it get back above top of value for the month. Notice how this, we can now peek ahead and look at the December value area, which is because we only have one more trading day. Again, this value area for December is still being shaped by November price action, but we only have one more day. So I would like to see this. You could set an alert right around like 13.15. That would be a level. And then also, looking at things like even, in NextEra Energy, which saw some calls. All right, DBX. So I would watch this name too. I think this has an investor day this week. A lot of calls going up in this. We saw calls go up in this last week too. Right into this. So possible bounce day, possible momentum day when when it does have their investor day. All right, so here's what I did for the day. My goal was to kind of get out of some names that I got a little stuck in on Friday, right? Take the bounce and sell it. I made a big, quick little speech for the Tribeca Trade Group midday video where I said, "Hey, I'm not ashamed, to get out of some trades. This is how this is how we survive this market, getting out of some trades that didn't work. And if the reason is not there any longer why I got into the name, get out of it." Right? Starbucks, I was looking for a break higher. We saw a whole bunch of call activity. Right? It doesn't look like they're going to be right with that call activity. That's the case a lot of times, guys. A lot of times we see calls on the tape, trade doesn't work. Unfortunately, what happens is Twitter goes silent. Nobody mentions on Twitter when they don't work. But Starbucks had a whole bunch of calls that went up. It didn't break what I was looking for it to do. It's back below the 200-day moving average. Move on, right? And reset an alert on this one. IYR looked great last week too. This might have actually come out okay. But again, I was looking for a break higher. I'm happy to go back into it once it gets back above, 110, 111. But like I said, with the way that this market is, right, I don't feel comfortable having a big set of positions on in my trading account right now, given the deterioration that we're seeing in market breadth. Right, and again, I will be ready for that to change. Sherman-Williams, another quality name nobody talks about, right? Nice move into the 20-day moving average, nice move up. This was a trade I decided to take. I know it's a tougher name. It's a $300 stock, but sometimes these higher priced stocks, there are a reason why they're high priced, right? They're just good quality names. Palo Alto decided to exit this one, right? I was going to put a stock position on. I'll wait. I could wait. It's moving in the right direction. Right now, I think it's kind of acting as best in breed in the cyberspace. Cyberspace suddenly has gotten all over the place. ZS will be an important report. This name reports this week. I'll be really interested in that one. But you're seeing some areas of cyber break down. CrowdStrike just doesn't look right. All right. Cyber is another one. Right, that just hasn't really looked right. But there are some names that are strong within the group. MDB, I'm watching to see if it can kind of retake the value area. So I think that's enough charts to go through for one day. Again, I always show what I'm up to. I always show my trade blotter. I don't know anybody else who does this in their end of day videos or any other videos, but this is what I did. I also got out of team. I added some risk at the end of the day. Towards the end of the day on Friday. And I got rid of most of those trades, and I'm coming into the new month very, very lean, and ready to kind of tackle any environment that we've got. And I'm excited for the new month. One more day of November, and then we're on to a new month. And I'm very pleased, where we are as a team and where I am, going into the last month of the year. And it should be exciting, but I want to be as nimble as possible. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.